Hi, my name is Phil Button. I'm a UK medical doctor. I wanted to pose the question regarding how to influence change. Does the panel think that civil disobedience is a prerequisite or a hindrance to change? I'm mindful of the fact that we're not smoking in here.
Right. Civil disobedience, good or bad? Marisa?
Depends how far you want to take it. If you mean burning cars in the streets and having people's blood flow, it's a very bad thing for the receiver and the giver. Lighting a cigarette in a room because you're in civil disobedience of the law. I am from America, and our law says specifically if you don't agree with the law, break the law, to change the law. You do not have to be obedient. But that is not the case in the UK or European Union. I don't think you have a law that actually encourages you to break the law. In my quick research, I did not find one. So for you to be civilly disobedient, I would say it's thin ice, and it's your call. I can't tell you it's legal.
Gwen, you say a patriot must always be prepared to defend his country against his government. Do you agree with that?
The famous thing is the tyranny is when you are frightened of the government and freedom is the other way around. At times, some levels of disobedience, of course. When one is an attorney, then you have a duty to yourself and honour to rebel. I don't know if we're there yet, but we're going there. I don't think that the general cause at this point would be served by mass insurrection somehow. I don't think it would be mass apart from anything else. You get about 5 people in Parliament Square getting upset and getting their heads cracked by policemen. So it doesn't, I don't think it would be efficacious at this point, but it is something that anybody who believes in freedom must always keep their powder dry, because there will come times, and there may be times, and there have been times, when some form of civil disobedience is required. Frankly, I don't think there's a freedom that any of us possess that was not caused by people getting up out of their bunks and fighting for it. And in the end, sadly, that may be required.
I think the fight for freedom is always legal.
It should be.
Always.
Yes. But see, I'm not a European resident, so I can't absolutely say I know it is or isn't.
Please people for the recording on the internet and later on, please use microphones to ask your questions
Can we get this
and answer it.
Yeah, it's on,
I just wanted to say that wasn't Nick Hogan, that case, a sign of civil disobedience. The law had imposed a sentence. We, the people, changed that sentence through, if you like, a way of disobedience. You know, the judge sent him down for 6 months. We said no. And by our actions, we got him out in 9 days. So that is an example to me of civil disobedience. And it worked, I think.
Bill?
Bill Gibson. Maybe Marietta would like to explain to the conference her involvement with tea parties in the USA. It's a concept that I like, and it should be further developed over here in Europe.
Well, do you want me to talk about the good part or the part that really tweaks me?
The exciting part.
Oh, okay. The exciting part is Europe has tea parties. America was amazed that the European population has picked up the Tea Party tag. Now, what is a Tea Party? Everybody, this goes back into when America left England, okay? The king, and I'm not an expert on our history, but our king at that time, we were English citizens, okay? Our king taxed us to pay for his wars, and he taxed us what we determined were exorbitant. He took away our local courts and gave us government courts. He did everything to the United States, as we now call it, but he wasn't doing the same things to the other possessions of England. It was only done to the United States. And I say United States, I know that's not proper. The colonies. It was only done to the colonies. It wasn't done to the rest of England's possessions because the colonies were the only ones rich enough to carry it. The colonies sent representatives to the king several times explaining that we could not endure it. The king said basically, so, handle it, was his response in our opinion, as history is written. So at some point in time, he increased the tax on tea, and the local people dressed up as Indians, and people tell the story that dress up as Indians was to hide their identity. Well, in fact, the Indian represented freedom to the colonists. They were not governed by the king or the soldiers. They had freedom. And those colonists were actually dressing up as Indians to represent the freedom. They took the tea out of the boat and they dumped it in the harbor. And they called it a tea party. In retrospect, at the time, it was a serious issue because that was the king's tea. And they were destroying the king's property. So the tea party is separation of the colonist from the norm of the rule of the king at that time. That was their big deal demonstration. So now we have, fast forward to 2010, we have the Democrats in party in Congress in power, -1 sort of, and we have a Democratic president, and we have all of our high population areas are primarily Democratic demographically. So you have a one party pretty well running the country. And because I look at the issues of forces, TICAP, and all the other organizations, Freedom to Choose, I look at all this on an international level, and I look at the Tea Party on an international level. And on April 15th, I think it was, the Tea Party people did a march on Washington, D.C., very, very loosely organized. According to Washington, D.C. standards, if you have 500 people show up for any given cause, yeah, you were here. If you have 10 to 30,000 people show up, Congress will take note. The Tea Party people had close to 2 million feet on the ground and probably another 2 million still trying to get in town when it was over at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The only media that covered it was Fox News. So if you want to discuss media control, bias, whatever. The Tea Party is a bottoms-up grassroots movement in the United States. It doesn't matter if their issue is smoking bans, alcohol control, vaccines, fluoride in your water, gun control, climate control, national health care. They don't care what your issue is, what your background is, what your party is. None of that matters. The only unifying complaint that I can find amongst the Tea Party people that they have, no matter what their issue is, the only complaint they have is their politicians are not listening to them. And to me, that was very important, and it's part of what sent me on my search for this talk today also. Who is the politician listening to? And that's what made me look at the European Economic and Social Council. That doesn't mean they have control of the Parliament or the Commission or the Council, but they have influence in that the Treaty of Lisbon has given the European Economic and Social Committee explicit instructions to give an opinion on all matters Parliament and Commission, and is asked for from Council.